welcomed at our Bro Nouveau podcast, the podcast that models healthy communication for men, empowering them to start the journey of self-work.
Okay, and we're recording. So, financial services, finance, as it's known, has a often this aura of mystery or kind of confusion. You know, it has a certain prestige, the industry around it, and all of that. It kind of feels intentional somehow. So, Jacky, we'll leave it with you. Start with you. Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. So for me, I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of unknowns around investing, right? There used to be a lot more barriers as well. Back in the day, you used to call your broker, right? And, tell them what's the hot stock of the day and what you want to buy. And there used to be high costs and minimums, and it was really all about access. And now you can trade on your cell phone, right? And I think the prestige point is a lot of it has been portrayed by some of these larger companies. And I think it's been purposeful, right? Because some firms or wirehouses can just hide behind the brand, right? They can say, hey, listen, we're a big name brand. We've been around for a long time, and we are the best of the best because of this. And that lack of transparency can almost help most people think they're getting the best on the street, but sometimes, and a lot of the times, that's not really the case, especially in today with technology and just how far the industry is advanced. There's not really much you can get at one place that you really can't get from an independent firm, right? I don't know, Julian, have anything to add to that? I think a lot of it's just kind of the lack of transparency makes it easy to charge people for not much work, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, you take a look at the industry, and we talk about this all the time. You can see everyone calls themselves a financial advisor or a wealth manager, and a lot of them are commission-based insurance salesmen, right? So this prestige, this mystique around wealth management leads to that lack of transparency and enables a lot of people to portray themselves differently than they may act, right? They act like they're fiduciaries. A lot of times they're commission-based salesmen, right? So they're selling a product, not necessarily what's best for people. And they can do that, right? Because they have that implicit trust from people because of the brand name, because of the prestige and mystique around what they're doing. So there can be great advisors at every different place, every different firm, every different insurance company. But for the most part, we can't be blinded by that aura, the name, or that prestige around what's happening.
Or the logo, right? A logo is just a logo. You got to remember you're dealing with people, right? So you want to make sure that you're working with someone that knows what they're doing, right? And can portray what value they're bringing, how they working for you.
Mm-hmm. So Julian mentioned different types of insurances. Like, what types of insurance products is he referring to?
So, there's a lot of things that we've seen in our experience where, we'd speak to a prospective client or have a new client, and they say, yeah, my old financial advisor, helped me out with my financial plan. And we'd speak to them and we unlook, and basically they were just sold a ton of insurance policies, right? We're planners. Insurance are extremely important, right? It's part of your financial plan. But a lot of folks sometimes fall into, this pattern where they see a commercial on TV about saying, hey, help prepare for your college savings for your children, help prepare for retirement. And then it's an insurance company. So sometimes we see that, hey, yes, is insurance absolutely important and vital to your financial plan? Of course. But, insurance isn't the only answer to what you're trying to accomplish. So that is really more so, I guess, the point that Julian was alluding to, that they talk to these individuals, and they say everything's a nail to a hammer, right? So if you speak to someone on an insurance policy at an insurance agency, every answer they're going to have for you is insurance, right? So
that's the best thing ever. It's what you need.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you're saving for retirement? Here's an annuity, right? Oh, you're saving for college? Here's an annuity, right? So we just tell folks to be mindful of who they work for, and back to the thing, right? If they work for an insurance company, they're going to give you insurance. So that's
Yeah.
like usually the issue, right? Like,
Okay. So how do we differentiate then, I guess, from that type of maybe peddling services people don't need to actual investment management or kind of investment advice? And for example, you are a business that offers financial services, investment advice, wealth management. So what are those services you provide, and what differentiates you from, the insurance peddlers?
Yeah. I'll be happy to take this, Julian, if you're still having some tech issues. So I think the first thing to differentiate is, like we like to lean on, especially with our, how we will help with our clients, is transparency, right? We have insurance partners, and I started in insurance, right? And understanding that there's a time and a place for every piece, right? So if you speak to someone and you're trying to save up for a big expense or retirement, if you really pay attention to what they're offering, you can usually easily figure out that, oh, this person is just has insurance, right? So for us, we always tell folks to think about their financial plan as all these major pieces. If you need insurance, of course, go to an insurance specialist, right? Like, I'm a CFP, Julian's a CFP, our other two partners are CFPs. We're very dangerous in the insurance space, but we still bring an insurance partner, right, to help bridge that piece. But at the end of the day, our clients work with us because we're helping them take care of everything, right? We're the CFO of their life. We're bringing in all the pieces together. So folks just need to realize that, hey, listen, you need to work with a planner, right? And not particularly just an insurance person for your entire picture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And my understanding of financial advisors, that they were specifically investment specialists. So essentially, this group or individual is going to help take my pot of money and grow it more than I would be able to grow it by myself, even including, the commission or kind of the profit they make from the service they provide.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's oftentimes what people think of when they first think of a financial advisor. But as you've seen, it's really changed over the past couple decades, where our goal is to provide value beyond just the investments, right? The investments are commoditized. You can go onto Vanguard and buy whatever you would like, right, for essentially no cost, right, a negligible amount. But when we're working with clients, so much of what we do and our largest value comes from building a financial plan for them and navigating their cash flows, navigating their tax implications, right? When should we do a Roth conversion? When should we be contributing how much to the 401k, knowing that they're going to change jobs soon, right? All these different things happening in their life, around their personal life, their family planning, to their investment life. What can we help them with, right? And how can we add value? How can we save them time? I think I say this. So Jacky 2 months ago helped one of our clients buy an RV, right? So really anything that we can do for somebody, we do, right? We want to be their personal CFO, and it goes far beyond just the tickers on the screen, the investment management component.
Right. And I would imagine too, it's like times like right now, say there's inflation eating away at someone's budget, investments are down, the summer's about to end, there's probably some school tuitions coming due. probably now is when you're getting more calls, I would imagine, than when times are kind of, happy days and everybody's, riding a good market.
Exactly. And that's where a lot of the planning comes in. So we were at all-time highs in January, and those were times when we were encouraging clients to take money off the table, right? Not a significant amount, but let's trim our positions, right? Let's continue to trim our positions, knowing that bear markets will come. They will always come, right? There's no doubt that there will be a pullback at some point. We're in it right now. So if we plan ahead, we can make sure everyone has cash on hand. And when they have cash on hand, we can either reinvest it or use it for things like college tuition, just like you spoke about.
Yeah, and to add to Julian's point, I spoke to a client a few weeks ago, right when we hit bear market territory for the first time, and she asked, Jacky, what should we be doing? And I said, well, we already did it a year ago, right? And that's what I like to say. A difference is, back to your point about
Nice.
financial advisor. A financial advisor is going to wait for the storm to start preparing for the storm, right? If you have a good planner, right, the things that we're experiencing today, we've been put in place, right, a year ago, 6 months ago. So now all of our clients say, yeah, we're in a bear market. Okay, we talked about this already, and they know what actions we're going to take advantage of this bear market. So that's one thing is what I would add on is a little bit difference from a planner and advisor, where a planner is looking down the road and finding the best ways to be proactive, right? And because we know the storm is coming, right? The markets are cyclical, so let's not act surprised when it does happen.
For sure. How does one define a bear market? And I guess for anyone who's not familiar with these terms, bull and bear, what are the differences?
It's a great question. So the bull and the bear. A bull is someone who thinks the market's going up, simply, right? For whatever reasons, whatever metrics they're looking at, they think the market's going to go up, or a particular stock is going up. And a bear thinks the opposite, right? So if you think, a good way to remember is like, when a bull is, has its horns, it pulls its horns up, right? And the bears, they bear down, right? They have their paws up and they kind of come down on you. So I think that's a good way to kind of remember how it, I know it's kind of funky, but that's how I always remember
and then
it.
They eat you.
Yeah, exactly. Then they eat you, right? Yeah. So, and then.
Sweet. And so what are the metrics? Like when you said now we're in bear territory, how do you guys define that?
So it's a 20% draw,
yeah,
right, from the
okay.
prior position, right? So we essentially hit it a couple weeks back, right? We've recovered since then, and then last week you saw a slight drawdown from where we were previously. So there's always going to be volatility, right? But making adjustments as you see these things happening in the market is extremely important.
Awesome. Okay, so I think I have a better understanding of what a financial planner does as opposed to just an advisor, and who needs these services. Now, I would imagine there's a threshold of savings, or at the very least, earnings potential. So how do you guys decide who to take on, and what's the kind of profile of your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with the caveat that you're speaking to a fiduciary, the earlier the better, right? The sooner you can talk to a fiduciary, the better. Education is a huge part of what we do for our clients. And because so much of investing is about compounding, the impact you can have is far higher in your earlier years, right? The more you know now, the greater an impact you can have. If you are speaking to a fiduciary, we had this situation last week. We essentially had to tell two individuals, right, essentially you're not in position to invest right now, right? They had $600,000, but they had a lot of things in the way that were going to impede their ability to invest for the next decade, for the next 20 years, right? So if you're speaking to a fiduciary, they're in a position to tell you, hey, it's not a good fit for you right now. With that, I think our clients range across the board. Jacky and I have been in the business between 5 and 10 years, been between us, not between us, but each, we've built out different client bases and essentially work with all different types of people, ranging from 60-year-olds, 80-year-old retirees, and 30-year-olds just getting started. But Jacky can certainly elaborate a little bit on that as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, right? I think there really isn't a switch, right, where you say, oh, I've got X amount of money saved up, or I'm finally making so much money, right? It's what I usually tell folks, you're better off speaking to a planner too early than too late, right? We get calls in all the time, right? Kids who just got out of college say, hey, I need to talk to a planner. I want to, pay for a plan. Like, listen, back to the fiduciary conversation, right? But like, we're not going to charge you for a plan or to work with you where we can't add value to what you're doing. You just got out of college. Julian spent, I think, an hour and a half with someone yesterday or last week that called in and said, listen, you need to do, make sure you're saving X amount, make sure you get your emergency fund in order, right? Pick a good allocation, 401k, keep it, whatever you're investing in, right? Just weather the storm and just make sure that they're on the right footing, right? Moving forward. So then over the next 5-10 years, when life adds complexity, right? When they want to build a family, buy a house, right? Or they change jobs, then they're like, okay, you know what? Now I'm ready for a planner because, there are a lot of things going on where there might be tax implications or just long-term implications from a retirement standpoint. So that's why we always tell folks, make sure you speak to a fiduciary, a CFP, because back to the insurance thing, right? If you bring it to someone who's just out there, just, lack of a better term, just slinging policies left and right, they don't care where that money is or how long you need it. They're going to throw you into something. You'll never see them again, right? Like I said, I started the industry. I've seen it firsthand. So always make sure you're talking to someone who, cares about you and cares about your well-being, right? So that would be, hate to give you a non-answer, but, there really isn't a kind of, I wish there was an easy, list of items to check off, right? To talk to a planner.
Well, that's good to know too, right? I mean, even if someone is really proactive and ambitious and has $0 saved, it costs no money to like schedule a free appointment with a planner, right? Yeah. If they're really going to kind of be proactive and want to educate themselves, there are groups out there and also the internet. So I guess the even previous step would be getting out of the rat race and getting out of living paycheck to paycheck, which, as we know, so many Americans specifically, and then also, I don't even know globally what the figure is, but probably more considering we're one of the wealthiest countries, people are in that. So when it comes to kind of the basics of budgeting, controlling spending, how did you guys learn, and where would you point someone who needs help kind of getting their personal finances under control?
So I'll say, I'll say for me, I learned the hard way. I worked through college, paid through college, right? I had a ton of jobs in college. Even graduated early because I couldn't afford to keep staying on, right? I had to get into the workforce and make some money. So I tell folks there are 3 different places you can be, right? You can be where your income is higher than what your bills are, right? Your real bills, food, utilities, right? Keeping the lights on, right? And if that is the case, you have to have a real honest conversation with yourself and say, okay, like, what can I cut out? Right. And we hear it all the time, folks say, oh, stop getting that, $5 coffee every day and stop doing this, or the avocado toast, right? That's a funny thing. But my opinion is really, instead of, I call budget a profanity, right? Because everyone feels restrictive. I like to call it a spending plan, right? So if you do like that $5 Starbucks, if that's what gets you going and keeps your day, like, fine, then get your $5 Starbucks, buy your avocado toast. But then take that as something else, right? If you don't watch TV all the time, you don't watch cable, cut the cable cord. Save your money so then when you're buying your coffee, when you're buying your avocado toast, you can feel better about it, right? If you're in a place where your income is exactly what your bills are, it's a little tougher situation. I've been there, and guess what? You got to figure it out, right? Either find ways to increase your income, or sometimes you got to find ways to lower what those expenses are, right? That's not an easy conversation. I've had those conversations with folks together before, and that's just unfortunately the reality, right? You got to figure out how to slim, and I tell folks, if you can save $20 a month and that's where you can start, then save $20 a month. Sometimes the building the habit of saving is more important than how much you're saving, right? And if you're in a position where what's coming in is below than what you've got to pay out, that's of course the worst place to be. And usually, sometimes that's a situation where you might need to seek help from different types of social services until you get back on your feet, right? Or, speaking with family, working with family, living with people, sometimes you have to get, creative. But, everyone's situation is a fingerprint, right? And there's different nuances, but that is, of course, the most difficult place to be. And you've got to figure out how to either increase the income or decrease the expenses. But like I said, also, I've helped a lot of folks figure out what those social programs are to kind of help level the playing field. So like, I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but like, that's usually how we look at those three different pieces, right? If you're making well over above, but for some reason you can't find somewhere to save, I tell people, save yourself, pay yourself first. When you get paid, if you have direct deposit, have it automatically deposit in the account that you can't touch, right? I tell people all the time, pay yourself first, because 20, 30 years from now, when you retire, Visa's is not going to come to you. American Express is not going to come to you and say, hey, listen, thanks, John. You've been paying your Visa bill on time for the last 30 months. Here's some money for retirement, right? Your cable bill is they're not going to say, hey, thanks for being such a loyal customer for 30 years. Here's some money for retirement. So pay yourself first, because at the end of the day, you're the only person responsible for your own retirement and your own financial savings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. I like that too, the kind of psychology of saving, because whether it's $20 a month, starting with that, kind of making that connection in the brain and then making it a habit, it can grow and compound over time. And before you know it, it could be $200 a month. And then over time, it's more and more. Actually, this guy, Jordan Harbinger, has a great podcast, and he had a guest on who's both a PhD in psychology and a CFP. Mm-hmm. So actually very qualified to talk about the psychology of money. And he was saying how the way we grew up and the spending habits we observed as kids has a massive impact on how we think about money. And kind of in line with my show, the whole theme is, healthy communication for men, talking about things, and the idea that being expressive and communicating honestly is better than holding it in. Actually, talking about money is one of those major taboos, right? Because we don't want to be rude, or we don't want to be presumptuous, or, we don't want to try to look flashy, whatever the situation is. But actually having these conversations, even with friends too, about, hey man, how do you budget? Like, how do you get through this crazy world? There's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, I agree. I actually wrote a blog about that, just saying that people are not openly, communicative about money and savings, even within family, right? Like I watch my mom just, bust her butt working a ton of jobs to kind of make the bills paid. So that's how I figured that she had to do it, right? Like I was like, oh, you just got to, work 80, 90 hours a week, and then that's how you get your bills paid, right? So it is very important how people communicate, and it should be a more open topic, right? So
totally awesome. So Liberty One, your brand, I saw it because Julian and I went to high school together, so I saw it launch on LinkedIn a couple years back, and I was super stoked. So how did you guys come to the entrepreneurial path? And within your industry, the path you're on is called going independent. So what does that mean? And in the context, independent from what?
Yeah. So a few different questions there. So starting with how Jacky and I initially started working together. We were at a major wirehouse. We were essentially working in close proximity to each other, right? And Jacky, as you can probably tell, is a louder person, so it was easy to get to know him over time. Our skill sets complemented each other pretty significantly. So we started to work together on clients and prospective clients and building out businesses together. And over time, we got closer and closer. When we essentially were there, we had a really great foundation, right? And what we started to see was that the best area for our clients was going to be going independent, right? The best move we could make for them was going to be going independent. A lot of that was because of two things. We wanted freedom of choice around finding the best products for our clients, right? Whether that be investments, the financial planning software, the custodian we're using, right? Who's holding the assets? Are they the best option for our clients? And the second piece is no conflicts of interest, right? When we left our former firm, we made it clear to clients why we did it. We wanted to ensure we're always working directly for them, not for the bank, right? The client agenda is our agenda. So now as an independent firm, that's exactly how it is, where I work directly for Tom Pierce, right? I work directly for every one of our clients that we work with, as opposed to being an employee of a large wirehouse, a large bank, right? The client hires you, but there's always going to be a degree of influence that they are trying to essentially input in your space so that they can look to increase their stock value, right? Their shareholder value. So that was the biggest reason we did it. And over time, it just became more and more clear that we could do it, right? Because we have great clients, great relationships. We work really well together. And one of the biggest things that made it possible is the increase in technology, right? So you've seen that it was a lot harder to go independent 20 years ago. Now, because there's a lot more technology, you can add a custodian, you can do paperwork on e-signature, right? Something very simple, but that helps a lot. It made it a lot easier to go independent and do the best job possible for your clients. Jacky, is there anything to add there?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like at the end of the day, we started to feel it slip that the agenda was no longer the client's agenda, right? Where we were previously. And that is, I think for us, like really the biggest reason why we start to look around and see like, a lot of these other teams and planners that we actually knew and looked up to, they did the right, the same thing. And we figured, okay, there might be something there. Right. Back to the brand thing, right? We had the brand like, oh, this is the place you want to be, right? They always used to say, oh, they want what we have. And we believed it, right? Until, we did some due diligence on our end and saw that, okay, there is a better place to build a platform for our clients.
Essentially a huge team we were close to, like looked up to. You're always trying to share ideas with some of the best guys. And they left, and Jacky and I just looked at each other that day and we were like, wait, you can do that? You can leave.
Yeah,
and then it was like, wait, people can do that? And then it was, wait, can we do that? So we got the ball rolling, and it's been fantastic. And our clients have been great, and it's been a great spot for us so far.
Yo, how nice is it not having to like look over your shoulder if you want to clock out at 3, for example?
I think it's more you get to direct what's on your calendar. Everything on your calendar matters.
Yeah.
There's no no obscure company meeting that doesn't apply to you or shouldn't apply to your clients. One of the last straws for us was they started offering $200 for client associates, so the people that work on our team, to open checking accounts. And does Tom need a checking account? Does Tom want a checking account? I don't know, but if he does, he'll ask me. You shouldn't be incentivized to do that for people. And that for us was the line, and that was the day that we were like, we can't be here anymore.
Did they see the Wells Fargo thing and think that's a good idea?
Yeah,
exactly.
What?
Like I've seen this movie before. I've seen this movie before.
It's funny you bring that up. Tom, when I relocated from South Florida, I had a very short stint at Wells Fargo Advisors during that time, and I would say
Wow, yeah.
I felt there was a deja vu almost because there was emails going out on who's opening how many checking accounts and things. I was like, man, this feels familiar, and it didn't leave a good feeling in neither of our stomachs, I'd say.
No.
So.
And when
Yeah.
you're having to protect clients from your employer,
Yeah.
then it was time to go.
Right.
Because it felt like every day
Yeah.
it was a battle where it's like, no, don't reach out to my client about this topic. They don't need that.
Yeah.
Mortgages, things like mortgages, let's get them the best rate possible. They don't need to use us, and all the little things started to build up, and the stress of trying to essentially protect them and make sure that you're doing the best job possible, because we try to be as high character as we can be. Try to be fiduciaries, right? We are fiduciaries now, full fiduciaries. But that just got to be too much, and it was time to go, and everything went fantastic, better than we could have thought, I think, at the time.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sure they appreciated that, the clients, because you were looking out for their best interest. So part of that transparency too is the fee structure, right? So I think you guys listened to my episode with Paul, who was pretty. He was specifically talking about, a 401k context, but also sometimes some financial advisors, and kind of was poo-pooing their fee structure. So how did you guys approach how you were going to make your money from the services provided, and how does that differ than the industry standard, or is it the industry standard?
So I think for us, our standard has been the assets under management, right? Just the cost is based off of what we're actually managing, right? And for me, I guess, and also Julian, right, we work together. I think it's the ideal way because it's most transparent, right? Back to the fiduciary thing, I feel like that's been the word of the day here. But our clients quarterly, they get an email saying, listen, over the last quarter, this is what happened in your accounts, what you were billed, right? And what your performance and all those fun things. So we're able to just be transparent and say, listen, this is what we're doing, like, on your behalf, right? And, there are a lot of different ways out there. There's a lot of there are folks that are commission-based, like we said, once upon a time. And there are folks out there that might be like a one-time fee plan, right? And Julian can speak to this more, right, about the one-time fee plans. But for us, sometimes that may not be the best thing for someone, because it's just a snapshot, right? Just where you are right now, and where that doesn't really help you 5 months from now, 6 months from now. All right, Julian, anything to add to that?
No, I think when we did this and that day we sat down and said, should we launch our own firm? Should we go independent? Because we were in that position, we were able to build this exactly what we thought was best for clients, right? And our goal is to be bulletproof, right? Every aspect of the business, whether it's investments, costs, partners that we work with, planning software, everything we do, we were able to put time into and pick the best one. So this isn't a legacy choice from 2003 that it just happens to be here. This is what we have felt is best for clients. And the reason for that is because we sit on the same side of the table as them, right? When things are going well, we're part of that. When things, there's a drawdown like there has been over the past 6 months, we're part of that as well. And it's important. Incentives drive behavior in the world, whether people like it or not. So it's important to note when when somebody's investigating or interviewing who they're going to work with, ask yourself, what incentivizes this person? How are they incentivized by who they work for? And is that what's best for me? Are there incentives to essentially sell something and move on? Are there incentives to, get me a checking account? Whatever it may be, if it's best for you, that's fine. But it's important to know what that answer is. And for us, it's all about continued long-term growth. We would say, we want 30-year relationships with our clients. I want to work with somebody for as long as they are comfortable working with us, do the best job we can. And the way we are incentivized essentially enables that to happen, where we're there every day, rent is due every day, looking to do the best job possible for them.
Awesome. So essentially, the more you grow the pile, your commission grows, and then if the performance is low or smaller, then your commission is commensurately smaller, essentially.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Without the word commission,
Cool.
the word commission's a little
it's a little
choice.
a little salesy.
Yeah, that makes it more salesy. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. So if we could go to some specifics for the moment, let's say there's like a index fund investor who's sweating right now, or someone who's considering working with a financial planner. Like we said in the beginning, these downtimes or these challenging times are when, there could be value added. So, what are you doing for your clients right now in a downturn? And so what are the kind of steps? You said a lot of it's preparation, but, the day to day, what do your days look like now in this specific environment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of what we've been doing is buying into the weakness, right? Knowing that in time, everything that's cyclical won't come back around. The way our portfolios are built, we run a rules-based rebalancing strategy, right? So when the market is down and hits a trigger point, we are rebalancing, selling bonds and buying stock, right? And on the reverse side, when the market's up, we are trimming that stock position over time. So in 2020, we were running this. It was fantastic, right? We bought within 2 days of the bottom and trimmed that position the whole way up, which is exactly what we want to be doing. That taking emotion out of it is what enables our clients to be in a good position right now. Because those that in January were buying all these aggressive tech stocks, the telehealth, the Rokus of the world, they've gotten slammed. And it's going to be extremely hard to come back from that. So a lot of it is that planning ahead piece, right? Like you said. The second aspect is what can we be doing now, right? That plans ahead for next year and the following year. And for a lot of people, that's going to be things like Roth conversions. So that's taking pre-tax money, converting it to post-tax money in a Roth. If it was $10,000 at the beginning of this year, it's probably, $8,000 now, or it was, last month. And so you're converting that $8,000 as opposed to 10, saving on the $2,000 of taxes, knowing that the market's going to come back, or $2,000 that would be additional $2,000 that would be taxable, knowing the market's going to come back in time, cyclical. And if you're investing responsibly, buying responsibly, that's a great thing to do. The other piece is tax loss harvesting. So offsetting gains you've had in the account over the past 2 years with losses, right, to help save yourself on the tax side. And I think really just looking to increase participation in the market by buying when you see opportunity. So we spoke about it from a rebalancing perspective, but a lot of our clients have had cash on hand, and we want to continue to prioritize buying in responsibly over time. So we put money in essentially every month. A lot of clients doing dollar cost averaging, but if we do have larger sums of money, they get a bonus. They have restricted stock units that they want to diversify across the board. There's a lot of opportunity now to do that and see that growth 5-10 years out, where you're thanking yourself for buying in at a time like this.
Awesome. So with the tax loss harvesting, is that intentionally putting in a position that is going to lose to avoid the tax burden, if I'm understanding that correctly?
Great question. So it's the name, right, sounds like you are buying something intentionally to lose. But essentially, tax loss harvesting is you have an investment that's down, right? Let's just say it's an international stock, right? You can sell that. It's down. You sell it. You buy into something similar, not the same, and you're taking that tax loss. So if you bought it at 10, you sell it at 8, you're taking that negative 2,000. And that offsets any gains in other investments. So it's reducing your overall tax burden but you still maintain the exposure from an investment perspective.
Right.
So it's a lot easier if you draw it out. A lot of times for clients,
No, that makes sense.
Illustrations, but you're essentially mitigating their taxes down the road by making these proactive decisions.
Cool. So they're still going to get the same participation at 8,000 in a similar stock and the same recovery in theory, but now they're down. They have 2,000 less of taxes due at the end of the year.
Exactly. 2,000 less in gains because the market's been great for the past, 2 years. Of course, there's always choppiness for the past decade even. But if you can take some of those gains you've had over the past couple of years and offset them, right, decrease them, then your capital gains tax, your 15, 20% that you would owe, is now on a lesser dollar amount.
Awesome. Very interesting stuff.
That's the planning.
Yeah, that's the planning. And that's
the planning aspect.
And to that list, right? And I think one thing as well, like if you're working with a planner, right, there's opportunity in every market. Of course, in a great market, it's easy, it's low-hanging fruit. But in a down market, right, in a bear market, there's still plenty of opportunity and there's still plenty of things to do for clients. And that's why I said, that's why we're different, right, from a financial advisor, right? There's always something to do to help better your client's position, no matter what the market is doing.
Awesome. Well, I love that attitude.
Yeah.
I certainly would want my money with a group as responsible and committed to me as this one.
Yeah. People are going to think you're paid to say that. There was no compensation to top.
Yeah, there's no, but actually, I mean, this is great foundational knowledge, of kind of like what are the questions that anyone listening should be asking, and what are the differences. Like for me, the big distinction between an advisor and a planner is significant because it sounds like it's also a mindset. It's not just about growing the AUM for someone's benefit. It's about actually taking care of the client in the long term.
Exactly. And finances are extremely emotional, right? So, you talked about the guest that was on Harbinger's podcast, where he's a psychology PhD and CFP. But you want to make sure that you are very attentive to that, because if you handle the emotional piece, then you can be extremely deliberate and extremely proactive on the financial piece, right? Because everybody's comfortable with your decisions, they understand it, and you're hearing them and you're hearing their needs. So if you can handle that piece to the best of your ability, everybody's comfortable and the portfolio will perform better, right? Because they're comfortable buying in times like now, times like March 2020.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Awesome. Well, I think we'll round it off. Just a question about your company and your guys' vision as the founders. So, with the, I would say, opportunity for everyone to get in the game, like you talked about, technological advances and kind of lower barriers to entry for investing and opening a firm. Now, in theory, like the types of clients you could be seeing coming in the door the next 10, 20 years are going to have that, corporate social responsibility mindset, and what's the character of the people who I'm giving my money to. So just wanted to ask about kind of the brand identity you guys have, because, it is a diverse brand from a number of identity points. And, does that matter to you guys? Is that part of the plan, and is it intentional, or where does that kind of representation fit into the organization?
That's a great question. I would say one is absolutely intentional. Well, I guess on my part, I was born this way, so I guess I was kind of different. But I think Julian and I, we realized very early on that the space needs more diversity. Like that's, everyone knows that's no secret. But it also helped realize that, it gave us perspective, right? It was something that, we aren't as people one-dimensional. So as a team, we shouldn't be one-dimensional, right? So it's always important to realize that we want to represent the type of clients we want to serve. And for me, I want to serve everyone, right? Like for me, I don't care how you look like. I just want you to be someone who trusts my knowledge and wants to work with me long term, right? And we won't be on the same page. And we've had prospective clients reach out to us and say outright, like, yeah, we picked on you because you're the only diverse team that we can, that we can find, and two would pick up the phone when we called, right? So it is
Nice.
important, and I think it's something that's people are becoming more aware of that. I think for me personally, I want to make sure that I am doing the best that I can, and building a great firm, great organizations, because the college version of me did not know this was even an option. There's industries and spaces that still need work, and sometimes it's all about just kind of seeing someone do it, so hey, I can take that route as well. So I think it's very important. I think it's something we do as well. We make sure that we are always speaking on everyone's voice and point of view, and I hope, and I've seen that is increasing, but there's definitely a lot of room to go.
Totally. Yeah, representation matters, right? And kind of having diversity in identity, but also ideologically, right? Or
Sure.
Intellectual diversity. And I wonder too, is that part of how, you guys mentioned a few times that your team works well together? Is that part of it? Having sessions where there's disagreement and kind of constructive conflict?
Yeah, absolutely.
Think so. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jacky and I are from different backgrounds. He grew up in Florida. I grew up in New Jersey. Different upbringings, different backgrounds, different colleges. He went to University of Florida, which is a real shame. But yeah, absolutely. I think differences of opinion on things are important. If it's all one-sided, things aren't going to be run effectively. They're not going to be run in a way that essentially can help all different types of people. And we want to appeal to people, right? But more than that, we want to essentially be a benchmark for what things can look like going forward. We try to be different in a really great way and try and really make an impact on things in the ways that we can.
Yeah. And I like to provide some insight. Julian went to University of Miami, so that's why there's some, I'd say, somewhat jealousy, but it's okay. We don't have time to cover that. But it is a good point, right? Like, something that we did pick up, right, from our old firm, which we used to actually mock all the time, but it makes sense, where like 1 + 1 should equal 3 in a team, right? And when Julie and I started working together, it was like he loved everything that I did not like or care for, and vice versa, right? Like, I'm obviously the mouth in the room, right? And Julian isn't, right? And like, I think like that, when you think about personality types and just cultural perspective as well, right? That helps, because we don't really meet any prospective clients that at least one of the four of us can't really relate to, right? And that's why it matters more than anything, right? Because people work with people who they can relate to and understand them and know where they're coming from, right? Anyone I meet that's Haitian up here in Philly, they're immediately my best friend, right? Because in Florida, South Florida, everyone is Haitian. So here I meet someone Haitian, we're best friends. That's it, So
Nice.
And that goes with every facet of life, right? People want to work with people that understand them, and they're easily be more open as well, right? When it comes to this conversation about their savings and their finances, which can be a tough topic to speak about.
Totally. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you for the time and all the insights. I usually end the game with a conversation game. Or it's not the game, the podcast. Third episode in a row, still can't find that deck of cards, so I'll just ask you guys two random questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so Julian, we'll start with you. If you could live and work anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
That's a tough one. I mean, how much risk do you take here? I think you look at it. I think I'm obviously Italian, Julian DiLeonardo. I think it'd be great to be in Southern Italy, great weather, great food. So I'd look somewhere like that. That works for me off the cuff.
Awesome. Obviously Italian, everyone. Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And Jacky, I see the Spider-Man behind you. Are you a comic fan?
I am. I'll say I appreciate comic books, because I can't say fan because sometimes people hit me with trivia and stuff. I'm like, whoa.
Right.
But yes, I am a comic fan. Yeah, I got to
okay.
Asterisk.
So if you could be or participate in any of the worlds of any DC, Marvel, whatever, take your pick. Which one would you jump into and why?
That's a great one.
They're all very dangerous.
I was about to say, yeah, they're all very dangerous. I was going to say Marvel because I prefer Marvel over DC. Well, I prefer Marvel movies over DC. DC does better animated stuff. But I would probably just say Marvel because Spider-Man is my favorite comic book character. And when I'm literally in New York or something in Philly, like, I'll literally just like, man, like, it'd be wild just to see a dude swinging, like, building to building and not be freaked out by it, right? Like, oh, look, it's Spider-Man, and just like continue living my day. So yeah, I'd probably say, even though New York always gets attacked in every single, comic book movie, but like, yeah, like I think being in the Marvel universe in New York and not being in danger, would probably be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, awesome guys. Well, thank you for your time. I'll link the Liberty One website to anybody who wants to check it out. And any other parting shots you guys want to share?
Nothing from me. I appreciate you having us on. It's been a lot of fun. Not something I thought I would be doing this year, but I've really enjoyed it.
No, I think so. Appreciate the platform, and I enjoyed myself. And I also thank you for having this podcast. I think the topics you tackle are very important. They should be spoken about.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I think, financial health, financial literacy is part of that. So thank you guys for taking the time, and I'm sure it was valuable for everyone listening. So cheers.